The Golden State Warriors are standing at a crossroads. A dynasty that once felt unstoppable now feels fragile, caught between the past glory of championships and the uncertain reality of tomorrow. Stephen Curry, the heart and soul of this franchise, is 37 years old. Time, once their ally, has turned into their fiercest opponent. And now, a new rumor shakes the NBA world, a potential trade that could bring Memphis Grizzlies star Jaren Jackson Jr. to the Bay Area. This isn't just about swapping players. This is about legacy. It's about Curry's final chapter, about whether Golden State can squeeze one more championship run out of a core that once revolutionized basketball. And it's about risk, the kind of risk that either cements a dynasty or ends it with regret. So tonight we dive deep. Over the next 2 hours, we'll explore the Warriors' journey, the weight of Curry's timeline, the trade itself, and what it means for both Golden State and Memphis. We'll compare it to history's biggest NBA trades, we'll break down fan reactions, and we'll ask the biggest question of all: is this gamble worth it? The Warriors' journey, from dynasty to dilemma. To understand why this rumored trade matters so much, you have to rewind the clock. The Golden State Warriors of the mid-2010s weren't just champions, they were revolutionaries. Curry's three-point shooting changed the geometry of the game. Klay Thompson's two-way dominance and Draymond Green's versatility gave Golden State an unstoppable formula. Add Kevin Durant in 2016, and you had perhaps the most talented team in NBA history. From 2015 to 2019, the Warriors reached 5 straight finals and won 3 championships. They broke records, embarrassed opponents, and turned Oracle Arena into a fortress. But dynasties don't last forever. Injuries to Durant and Thompson derailed the 2019 finals. Durant left for Brooklyn. Klay missed 2 full seasons. Suddenly, Golden State went from unbeatable to vulnerable. The 2022 title run briefly reignited the fire. Curry, at age 34, carried the Warriors to their 4th ring of the era. But since then, the cracks have only widened. The 2023-24 season ended in disappointment. The 2024-25 campaign has been filled with inconsistency, roster questions, and a brutal Western Conference arms race. Now, the Warriors are stuck. Too good to blow it up completely, but not quite good enough to contend at the highest level. And with Curry in the twilight of his career, every season without progress feels like a wasted opportunity. That's why this rumored trade, Curry plus Jaren Jackson Jr., feels like more than just a headline. It feels like a decision that will define the Warriors' future. Why Jaren Jackson Jr. matters. For those who might not know Jaren Jackson Jr. beyond the highlight reels, let's break it down. Jackson, often called Triple J, is a unique two-way force. At 6 feet 11 inches, he combines length, mobility, and defensive instincts that few big men in the league can match. In 2023, he won Defensive Player of the Year. He can guard the rim, switch on to smaller players, and stretch the floor with his three-point shot. On paper, he is exactly what the Warriors need. Golden State has long relied on Draymond Green as their defensive anchor, but Draymond is now in his mid-30s. Adding Jackson would give them a younger, longer, more athletic defensive presence while also maintaining floor spacing on offense. Imagine Curry running a high pick-and-roll with Jackson. Imagine defenses trying to choose between guarding Curry 35 feet from the hoop or contesting Jackson's roll to the basket. That's the kind of nightmare matchup that could change Golden State's season, maybe even their destiny. But here's the catch. To get Jackson, the Warriors would have to give up a massive trade package, young players, future draft picks, maybe even a core piece. This isn't a win-win deal without pain. Golden State would be sacrificing part of their future for the chance to maximize Curry's present. And that brings us to the heart of this story, the balance between tomorrow and today. Stephen Curry is still brilliant. His shooting touch remains magical, his conditioning elite, his leadership unmatched. But even the greatest shooters can't beat Father Time forever. At 37, Curry's window to lead another title run is closing fast. Every season now is a countdown. Every playoff loss is a reminder that opportunities are slipping away. Warriors management knows it. Curry knows it. The fans know it. That's why bold moves are on the table. That's why a trade for Jaren Jackson Jr. isn't just possible, it feels necessary. Because if Golden State waits too long, Curry could end his career in frustration, watching other teams raise banners while he's stuck in the middle of the standings. And that, more than anything, would be a tragedy for one of the greatest players to ever step on a basketball court. So here we are, a dynasty at a crossroads, a superstar on borrowed time, and a trade rumor that could reshape the NBA. In the next part of our discussion, we'll dig into the details of this potential deal. What exactly would Golden State have to give up? How would Memphis benefit? And is this a trade that actually makes sense for both sides? When you hear a rumor about Jaren Jackson Jr. potentially heading to Golden State, your first reaction might be excitement. Warriors fans picture Curry feeding lobs to Jackson, imagine the floor spacing with Jackson at the 5, and see visions of banners rising again in Chase Center. But as any NBA fan knows, blockbuster trades don't come cheap. So, what exactly would this deal look like? The Warriors' possible package. To acquire a player like Jaren Jackson Jr., Golden State would almost certainly have to part with Jonathan Kuminga, their most promising young forward, a player who's shown flashes of being an elite two-way star. Moses Moody or Brandon Podziemski, young guards who bring shooting and energy off the bench. Future draft picks, at least 2 or 3 first-rounders, possibly unprotected. That's a lot. And the painful part? Kuminga. For Warriors fans, he represents the bridge between eras, the player who could one day take the torch from Curry. Trading him would be the ultimate sign that Golden State is going all in on the present Memphis perspective. Now let's flip it. Why would the Grizzlies even consider trading Jaren Jackson Jr., their franchise cornerstone and defensive anchor? The answer is complicated. Memphis has been battling injuries, inconsistency, and the weight of expectations. Ja Morant remains their superstar, but the Grizzlies' window is messy. Trading Jackson would be painful, but if the return is a package of young talent like Kuminga plus multiple picks, Memphis could reset their roster around Morant while stocking the cupboard for the future. It's the classic NBA dilemma. Do you hold on to your star and hope for a turnaround, or do you sell high and start building again? The risk factor, all in or all out. For Golden State, this trade would scream urgency. It says, we're not waiting. We're not hedging. We're going all in on Steph Curry's final years. But let's be honest. There's risk everywhere. Injury risk. Jackson has a history of missing games. If he joins Golden State and can't stay healthy, the gamble backfires. Chemistry risk. The Warriors' dynasty was built on trust, continuity, and culture. Bringing in a new star changes the equation. Future risk. Trading Kuminga and picks means when Curry retires, the Warriors could be left with an empty cupboard. And yet, that's what makes it fascinating. Because in sports, greatness often requires risk. The Warriors didn't become legends by playing it safe. They changed the game by taking bold shots, both on and off the court. If Memphis goes through with this deal, the immediate takeaway is flexibility. Imagine a Grizzlies lineup with Ja Morant pushing the pace, Jonathan Kuminga flying in transition, and young shooters spacing the floor. Add multiple first-round picks, and suddenly Memphis has options. They can retool quickly or go into a longer rebuild. And let's not forget, Memphis has never been a prime free agent destination. For them, trades and the draft are everything. If they believe Jackson isn't enough to elevate them past Denver, Minnesota, or Oklahoma City in the West, then cashing out now could be a smart play. In other words, what's desperation for Golden State could be strategy for Memphis. Historical comparisons, when stars change teams. This isn't the first time an NBA team has faced this kind of fork in the road. History is filled with examples of franchises taking massive swings. Some paid off. Some didn't. In 2007, the Boston Celtics traded for Kevin Garnett. They gave up young assets and picks, but the move immediately delivered a championship. No regrets. In 2019, the Lakers traded for Anthony Davis. They gutted their young core, but it brought LeBron his fourth ring and cemented AD as a franchise piece. Worth it. But on the flip side, look at the Brooklyn Nets' 2013 trade for Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. They gave up years of future picks, hoping to win now, and it ended in disaster. Even the Cleveland Cavaliers' moves around LeBron show the danger of short-term thinking. When he left in 2010, they had nothing left. The Warriors are standing at the same cliff. Do they risk it all for one more title run, or do they protect the future at the cost of the present? Fan reactions, the split opinion. If you scroll through Twitter or Reddit right now, Warriors fans are split in half. Some say, do it. Don't waste Curry's last years. We'll worry about the future later. Others argue, no way. Kuminga is our future. Don't mortgage the next decade just to chase a dream. And here's the truth, both sides are right. That's what makes this trade rumor so compelling. There is no clear win. It's about what Golden State values more, legacy or longevity. So far, we've looked at the trade from both sides, the risks, and the historical parallels. But the real heart of the matter goes deeper. What does this trade mean for Stephen Curry himself? How does it affect his legacy, his final years, and the story of the Warriors dynasty? We'll focus on Curry, his timeline, his impact, and why Golden State may be willing to risk everything to give him one last shot at greatness. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dubs Nation Voice. We remind you to subscribe and join channel membership and be one of our member family today. Today's story is about the Kawhi Leonard scandal with the Los Angeles Clippers, and what this entire mess could mean for the Golden State Warriors, Stephen Curry, and the entire balance of power in the Western Conference. Now, why does this matter? Well, the Clippers have been a team living on the edge for years, aging stars, constant injuries, and sky-high expectations. And suddenly this bombshell report drops. Allegations that Kawhi Leonard, a two-time champion, may have been paid nearly $28 million for what some are calling a no-show job. The NBA is reportedly investigating, the Clippers' credibility is under fire, and rival teams are smelling opportunity. Among those rivals are the Golden State Warriors, yes, the dynasty that brought you 4 championships, led by the legendary Stephen Curry. And while their window may be closing, this scandal might just be the break they need. Over the next 2 hours, we'll unpack the scandal, the fallout, and whether this could open the door for Golden State to add a key piece like Derrick Jones Jr. to support Curry's final push for one more ring. Let's start with some context. Kawhi Leonard is one of the most unique players in modern NBA history. Nicknamed the Claw, he built his reputation as a defensive monster in San Antonio, then as a cold-blooded assassin who led the Toronto Raptors to their first NBA title in 2019. But since arriving in Los Angeles to form that so-called super team with Paul George, Kawhi's Clippers era has been complicated, to say the least. Injuries derailed multiple playoff runs. The team never made the NBA Finals despite heavy investment, blockbuster trades, and championship expectations. Still, Kawhi remained one of the most respected and feared two-way players in the game. That's why this scandal is so shocking. According to NBA personality Pablo Torre, the Clippers allegedly funneled Kawhi a staggering $28 million through what he described as a fake, no-show job. If this is true, it's a direct violation of the NBA's salary cap rules, and it could bring down severe punishments, not just on Kawhi, but on the Clippers organization as a whole. This is not the first time we've seen teams get creative with salary cap gymnastics. Remember the Minnesota Timberwolves' Joe Smith contract fiasco back in the late 1990s? The league came down hard. The Clippers, if found guilty, could lose draft picks, be fined heavily, and face even more restrictions. And for a team that is already aging and top-heavy with salary, that's devastating. So here's where the Warriors enter the conversation. Golden State has been searching for answers since their dynasty began to crack after the 2022 championship. Draymond Green is older. Klay Thompson has battled through injuries. Stephen Curry is still brilliant, but at 37 years old, the clock is ticking on how many MVP-level seasons he has left in him. The front office, led by Mike Dunleavy Jr., has been cautious, but the pressure is mounting. If there was ever a moment to strike, to take advantage of another team's crisis, this might be it. And the player in the middle of all these whispers? Derrick Jones Jr., a 6'5" forward who just wrapped up a strong season with the Clippers. He's athletic, he's versatile, and he has championship experience after helping Dallas reach the 2024 NBA Finals. His defensive energy and improved outside shot make him an ideal piece for Golden State's rotation. But the big question is, at what cost? Would the Warriors give up a young talent like Moses Moody to bring in Jones? Is that enough to shift the balance of power in the West? Over the next segments, we'll break down the possible scenarios. But before we move to the trade talk, let's take a deeper look at how this Clippers scandal might unravel, and why it could be the beginning of a dramatic reset in Los Angeles. Now let's zoom in on the Los Angeles Clippers themselves, because before we can understand what this scandal means for Golden State, we have to understand what it means for LA. And honestly, the timing couldn't be worse for them. Think about it. The Clippers are entering the 2025-26 season with sky-high payroll, an aging roster, and not a lot of flexibility. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Russell Westbrook, these guys are household names, but they're not getting any younger. Injuries have been the story of their careers over the last 5 years. And now, instead of focusing on how to keep the core healthy, the entire organization is distracted by a scandal that could shake their foundation. Let's be real, Clippers fans have been through a lot. From the Donald Sterling controversy years ago, to the heartbreak of injuries, to watching Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan leave without a championship, and now this Kawhi story, it feels like the franchise is cursed with off-court chaos. This new scandal only fuels that narrative. Kawhi Leonard is 34. Paul George is 35. Russell Westbrook is 37. These are not players you build a future around anymore. These are veterans you try to squeeze the last ounce of production from. That's why the Clippers were desperate to stay relevant, to prove they could compete. But with this scandal hanging over them, you have to wonder if management is ready to hit the reset button. Because if the NBA decides to punish them, say, by stripping draft picks or limiting financial flexibility, then what's the point of keeping the band together? You can't rebuild with no picks and no trust from the league office. So naturally, the trade rumors are going to swirl. And when players like Derrick Jones Jr. become expendable, that's when rivals like the Warriors will pounce. And then there's the matter of reputation. The Clippers had worked hard over the last decade to rebuild their image from the Sterling days. Steve Ballmer came in, brought energy, money, and a vision. He built a new arena. He marketed the Clippers as a legitimate power in Los Angeles, no longer the Lakers' little brother. But a scandal like this? It's poison. It undermines all that hard work. Other teams will look at the Clippers and think they're desperate. They're cornered. They'll make a move out of fear. And that perception in the NBA is deadly, because once you're seen as desperate, rival GMs will circle like sharks. So what are the scenarios? Scenario 1, the Clippers double down. They say, look, Kawhi is still an elite talent when healthy, Paul George still has gas in the tank, and Russell Westbrook brings leadership. We'll weather the storm, we'll take the fines, and we'll keep pushing for a playoff spot. That's the prideful route, but it's risky. Because if injuries hit again, which history tells us they probably will, then you're left with nothing. Scenario 2, the Clippers reset. They look around and say, okay, this isn't working. Let's move veterans while they still have value. Let's get picks, let's get young players, and let's prepare for the future. This is where Derrick Jones Jr. comes into the conversation, because while he's younger than Kawhi or George, he's still a veteran piece who could be shipped off for the right price. For the Warriors, that could be a dream opportunity. And finally, let's talk about Kawhi himself. He's a fascinating figure. Quiet, private, almost robotic in his approach to basketball. The guy doesn't even have social media. But the irony is, that same private nature makes scandals like this even bigger. Because Kawhi never lets the world in, every bit of drama around him feels 10 times larger. And if the allegations are true, if he really took money for a no-show job, then it will leave a permanent stain on his legacy. We'll no longer just talk about Kawhi, the two-time Finals MVP. We'll talk about Kawhi, the player at the center of one of the NBA's ugliest salary scandals. For the Clippers, that's a nightmare. For their rivals, it's a potential blessing. So here's where we stand. The Clippers are vulnerable, their reputation is damaged, and their roster is fragile. And across the state, in San Francisco, the Golden State Warriors are watching all of this unfold with keen interest. Because for them, this might be the window of opportunity they've been waiting for. The dynasty isn't over yet, but the clock is ticking, and if they're serious about giving Steph Curry one last shot at glory, they may have to act fast. Up next, we'll dive into the Warriors' side of the story. The pressure on their front office, the state of their roster, and why this Clippers scandal could be the push that forces Golden State to finally make a move. Jonathan Kuminga's story with the Golden State Warriors has now reached a boiling point. From a promising draft pick to a key young piece on a dynasty roster, Kuminga has always been caught between two realities: the future star he believes he can be, and the limited role he has been asked to play. Now, as negotiations drag on, the question isn't just about dollars and cents. It's about power, opportunity, and identity. Will Kuminga finally take control of his destiny, or will the Warriors' front office force him into a corner? This is not just a contract saga, it's a battle for respect, relevance, and the future of a franchise that has defined the NBA for the last decade. Born in Goma, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Jonathan Kuminga's journey to the NBA is nothing short of extraordinary. From a young age, his size and athleticism drew attention. But unlike many of his peers, Kuminga had to leave home and travel across continents in pursuit of his basketball dream. He arrived in the United States as a teenager, raw but filled with potential, enrolling at the Patrick School in New Jersey, a program known for producing NBA talent. Scouts were immediately intrigued. His physical gifts, strength, leaping ability, quickness, were undeniable. Yet there were questions. Could he develop the skills? Could he adapt to the structure of high-level American basketball? Instead of going to college, Kuminga made a bold move, joining the NBA G League Ignite program. This decision, at the time, was risky. He bet on himself, believing that training against professionals would prepare him faster than NCAA competition. And for the most part, it worked. Scouts saw flashes of brilliance, step-back jumpers, highlight dunks, defensive versatility. By the time of the 2021 NBA Draft, he was seen as one of the highest upside prospects available. The Warriors, with the 7th overall pick, saw the opportunity. They were a team stuck in transition. Steph Curry was still at the height of his powers, but Klay Thompson was recovering from back-to-back major injuries, and the roster desperately needed youth. Drafting Kuminga was not just about the present, it was about building a bridge into the future. Early years in Golden State. Kuminga's rookie season was full of ups and downs. On some nights, he barely played. On others, he exploded off the bench, showing flashes that reminded fans of a young Kawhi Leonard or Jaylen Brown. His ability to guard multiple positions, run the floor, and finish above the rim made him a fan favorite almost immediately. By his second year, however, frustration started to grow. While Kuminga improved statistically, averaging more points and playing with greater confidence, his role under Steve Kerr remained inconsistent. Kerr, known for relying on veterans, often turned to players like Andrew Wiggins, Kevin Looney, and Draymond Green in crucial moments, leaving Kuminga on the sidelines. This was especially clear in the playoffs, where his minutes often disappeared despite regular season growth. To many observers, Kuminga represented the classic dilemma for the Warriors: should they commit fully to their veteran core, or should they invest in their young stars like Kuminga, James Wiseman, and Moses Moody? The contract saga unfolds. Fast forward to the summer of 2025. Kuminga is now a restricted free agent, and the standoff has begun. The Warriors have put a 2-year, $45 million offer on the table. On paper, it looks generous. But the fine print matters. The second year comes with a team option. To Kuminga and his agent, Aaron Turner, this is unacceptable. They want a player option, which gives Kuminga control. Control is everything here. If the team holds the option, Kuminga risks being stuck in the same frustrating role for another year, unable to explore opportunities elsewhere. If he has the player option, he can reassess his future, look for better fits, and potentially command a bigger contract. The qualifying offer complicates everything. Worth $7.9 million for one season, it allows Kuminga to hit unrestricted free agency the following summer. But it's a dangerous gamble. If he gets injured, or if his role continues to shrink, his market value could plummet. Still, the Warriors fear this option more than Kuminga does. If he signs it, they lose trade flexibility and risk watching him leave for nothing in 2026. This tug-of-war over options and leverage is not just financial. It reflects the deeper mistrust between the two sides. Kuminga feels undervalued. The Warriors fear overcommitting to a player they haven't fully trusted. The Jimmy Butler factor. This offseason, the Warriors made another bold move, trading for Jimmy Butler. On paper, Butler gives them another battle-tested veteran to chase one more championship with Curry and Draymond. But for Kuminga, Butler's arrival might be the final straw. Where does he fit now? If Butler plays big minutes at forward, Kuminga's path to a starting role becomes even narrower. Fans and analysts see the writing on the wall. Some argue that the Warriors don't really see Kuminga as part of their long-term future, and that he's more valuable as a trade asset. Others believe Golden State risks repeating the mistakes of the past, choosing short-term security over developing the next generation. Trade rumors and interest around the league. Reports indicate that teams like the Sacramento Kings and Phoenix Suns have already shown serious interest in Kuminga. Both franchises envision him as their power forward of the future, offering him not just money but a clear role. Unlike Golden State, they would hand him the keys to grow without fear of being benched behind veterans. The problem? Any deal requires the Warriors' approval. A sign-and-trade could work, but Golden State has been reluctant. After all, they know how talented Kuminga is, and losing him for the wrong package could haunt them. Yet the clock is ticking, and every day without resolution increases the tension. Lessons from the past. The specter of Nerlens Noel looms over this saga. In 2017, Noel turned down a $70 million offer from Dallas, betting on himself with a $4.1 million qualifying offer. That gamble backfired spectacularly after injuries and inconsistent play, and Noel never regained the same earning power. Kuminga's camp knows the risks, but they argue his situation is different. He's younger, healthier, and more productive than Noel was at that stage. He's also in a league that increasingly values athletic forwards who can guard multiple positions. The financial gap he risks is smaller, and he's confident he can earn far more long-term. The bigger picture. This saga isn't just about one player. It's a snapshot of the modern NBA. More than ever, young players are asserting control over their futures. Team options, once standard, are now points of contention. The power dynamic has shifted. For the Warriors, this is also about identity. They built a dynasty on loyalty and continuity, but can they afford to alienate their best young talent? If they cling too tightly to the past, they risk compromising the future. If they bet too heavily on improving youth, they risk wasting the twilight years of Curry's career. So where does this leave Jonathan Kuminga and the Golden State Warriors? With training camp just weeks away, the standoff feels unsustainable. Either the Warriors cave and give him a player option, or Kuminga takes the qualifying offer and sets up a season of constant drama. The nightmare for Golden State would be losing him for nothing while watching him blossom elsewhere. For Kuminga, the decision is about belief. Does he trust himself enough to gamble on the qualifying offer? Or does he compromise now for stability? What's certain is this. The resolution of Kuminga's contract saga will not only define his career but could reshape the entire Warriors dynasty. The stakes are enormous, and the next move could change everything. The 2025-2026 NBA season is here, and few teams draw as much attention as the Golden State Warriors. Once the unquestioned kings of basketball, the Warriors now stand at a crossroads. With Steph Curry still dazzling crowds at age 37, Jimmy Butler entering the twilight of his career, and Draymond Green battling both age and injuries, the story of Golden State this year is one of both hope and looming uncertainty. ESPN's biggest voices have all weighed in on the Warriors, and their reactions capture the complicated picture of a dynasty fighting to extend its life in a league that is faster, younger, and hungrier than ever. Stephen A. Smith, never one to hold back his emotions, opened his analysis with fire. He reminded fans that while Curry remains the greatest shooter in history, the Warriors have leaned on him far too heavily. He shouted that Golden State can no longer pretend that Steph alone can deliver championships, because the roster around him is older, thinner, and far less intimidating than it once was.